That's why we're here, for all the freaks and the geeks, but also to acknowledge and reflect on the journey that you as Oliver Tree have been on, are still on. You're a transparent dude. You tell your truth in any given moment through your music. You dress it up sometimes, but at the core of it, there's always something deep going on, huh?
Yes, sir. Well, the art to me is my life's work. So music specifically is where you get to meet the real guy.
So who were you before music became your voice?
Music's been my voice since I was really young. I mean, I've been making music since I was 3 years old. So this is not a new thing. It's just been something I did for self-entertainment. I didn't know it could be a job or anything like that.
Did you realize at any given moment, though, that it was more deeply connected to your spirit and to your desire to communicate?
It was just something like drinking water, eating food. I never thought of it as anything. I didn't even know any difference, you know? It's just what I've done. My house I grew up in was very musical, so it was just like I didn't learn any other languages. Music was the language that was taught in my house. Making art was, you know, I used to make film. Me and my friends were making basically trailers for movies that would never get made, and I do my own talk shows and different things with my friends, and we would wear these crazy outfits. My dad had all these costumes from Burning Man, and that was kind of our production wardrobe, and we would just make films all the time for self-entertainment, and we would just make music all the time, and I never knew that that was like something that could be a job, let alone anything that you could do that would resonate with people. That was just what I did.
Probably didn't even realize how lucky you were to grow up in a creative house.
100%. You just take it for granted. But the truth is, my parents, they, instead of buying new cars, they made an agreement we would buy art for the house and instruments instead of having a new vehicle or something like that. They prioritize art as the #1 priority. So
my next question is, what grade did you get in 7th grade?
C-.
I thought your last album was your last album, and
It was.
Well, I don't believe
Well,
that.
you know-
I don't never believe that anymore. And you know why? You know who's to blame for that? Jay-Z. Jay-Z, when he retired and gave us the Black Album, I was like, the ribbon's on it, it's done. And then when he came back, I was so happy. But the downside is I'll never believe an artist when they retire ever again. It's just, why would you have to retire from music?
Because it's an awful business.
But, okay, great point. But when you started, you weren't attached to the business. There was a thing called the internet. And when you started, you didn't even use the internet. You were just making art for art's sake at your house.
Well, I'll just start off by saying the only reason I came to do this interview is because I've been given an award for being the #1 singer in the world from
Me.
Yes,
I
and
did
Apple
that.
Music.
Yeah.
I want to shout out.
No, it's
Steve Jobs.
Sorry, no,
Thank
hang
you
on.
for this.
Whoa.
Whoa.
It's a very specific award. It is
Yeah.
just for me. It doesn't reflect the opinion of the company.
Well,
it's a personal
the company
award.
has said many nice things.
We have, but the award's from me. Just FYI.
Well, I thank you, and I thank Apple and Mr. Steve Jobs. And yeah, this thing
my
is
kid's 5th
pretty
form
penny.
poetry award.
This is real gold here. Wait, this is for your kid? You're re-gifting your kids awards?
I mean, I don't have them lying around.
You guys don't have a budget here? This is Apple Music. Aren't you guys a multi-trillion
You know what?
dollar industry?
You've just asked the magic question and unlocked the truth. The answer is no. We get by on nothing.
I love it.
Who's the most famous person you have in your phone?
Oh my God, dude. You would like to know. This guy's a clout chaser. What's
Totally.
going on here, Zane? This
I
isn't the
know.
guy I know.
Give me your phone.
I don't have it. I left it in the other room. But I've got crazy connects, bro. Who do you want to know?
Did Diplo pay you the 100 G's he owes you
Okay.
from the Super Bowl?
That's a great question. So Diplo is actually, me and him had a bet at the Super Bowl. And let's just say the Bengals did not win. And Diplo is down bad 100 G's. But he hasn't paid me yet, but he's going to. If the wire went in, I think it should go through.
The way that it looked, it was a last minute bet based on the final play of the game.
Well, it was just the game. That was the last play of the game. That was when it was over. He thought he was winning. He was rubbing it in my face the whole time.
There's no way he thought he was winning when the Rams, they were like first down and like within the 20-yard line, and they were always going to score. They were always going to score.
We always knew that.
Yeah.
LA, baby.
100 G's.
100 G's. Not bad for one afternoon.
Yeah.
But yeah, Diplo, he's a sucker. And I will say I made some country house music with him in one day.
Yeah.
I can't wait for you to hear this. I hope it blesses your ears. Because it's the best song I've ever made. But Diplo is a chump.
Now, I want to talk a bit more about this album, Cowboy Tears.
Yes. You got the name right this time. I love
it. He's got a Jesus. Look at this guy. I tell you what, he's got a full heart unless you up, and then he's like an elephant.
Then I'll turn.
He's just turned like that. Never let you forget it.
I came in here, I was like, I'm gonna be the most serious interview I ever had.
Good, let's get into it.
And that's literally what we're doing here. But I did beef with you last time I
You
was
did.
on.
You did. But did you or did you not send a message back to me saying I wasn't really serious?
No, what
I
happened was
wasn't really
you told
serious.
me.
Don't be mad at me because I got upset with you about the album title. Can we have a
Well, that was
conversation?
just straight
is that
disrespect.
Is that true or false?
What happened was you
Did
said
you or did you not
you're
send
gonna
a
text
message
me.
through
I
my
never got
guy
the text,
saying,
bro. Where's the
hey,
text?
man, I wasn't really mad at you. Are we good? Can we have
never
another
said that.
conversation?
No, what
True
I
or
said
false?
was
True or false?
false. Because you said you were gonna text me. I got no text, and
Yeah,
I said
'cause-
I made him mad, and I hurt the dude's feelings. So I was like, just send him whatever. I had my assistant reach out.
It's so good. That's why you have an assistant ground cover.
Literally, I have these.
love
I just say, tell him whatever he wants to hear.
Being your assistant, what a nightmare job
Bro,
that
you
is.
don't want to work for me.
It's interesting to me because, and this is the line that I feel you walk, and I love watching you walk it. And I don't know whether I really want to like untangle it because I like it from a fan's point of view, but I'll try. Is that you are a great writer and a great creative,
Thank you.
but and I love the way that you present your art each time with a real eye on detail and on creating a world. But this whole kind of like spend $2 million, the label, all that stuff feels very kind of art. It feels sort of like a part of it. Whereas I've known a lot of artists who genuinely hate their labels.
Yeah. They're too scared to say it.
But I think with you, it's like, isn't it all just part of the experiment?
Everything's an experiment. Even coming on this show.
Why do you have to be like that? Why you got to give your
You
assistant?
gave me the award,
Why do you-
and he's telling me this is his kid's
It's
award.
not
He's
my
regifting.
kids,
It's
Kids award.
Zane, you did me dirty, bro.
Nah, bro. I'm just.
And this thing you said it worked, and there's
you
literally
just call my
nothing.
show a show.
I have respect for you, just not your show.
Oh, that's just so dumb.
I told this guy I wanted to have a serious interview. I was gonna come on and be a sweetheart, and then what happens?
Yeah, but
Reality hits,
You
baby.
walked in with a made-up award that no one gave you. What are you talking
I did
about?
take it out of the green room, but
did.
hey, let's just keep it. Can we cut that part out?
No, nothing's getting cut out.
This was given to me by Zane Lowe.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
Why you gotta do me dirty like that, man?
Because, man, you came in
You
dirty.
did me worse than
You came
Fantano.
in dirty.
I came in with
Every-
multiple hugs.
Yo.
Nothing. The sweetest guy, and you.
Oliver Tree. Everything about you's dirty, man.
Bro,
You're
come
a
on.
dirty
You're
business.
scaring me. I'm part of the music industry, which is the scummiest of scummy
You're
industries.
everything that's wrong with the music industry.
I know. And so are you, dude. Deep pockets. He's got his fancy clothes. He's like the definition of cool. This guy shows up. He's got his Ariana Grande interview, and he's got his Kanye outfit on. He walks in, and he's like a billionaire. And he can't do it. What? Why'd you cancel on my first interview?
What?
He was lost traveling the world.
I was in
Where
Chicago.
were you?
I was in
Chicago. Oh,
Chicago.
yeah.
Yeah.
Must have been really hard to get back.
So you're here now. We're having this conversation. It won't be the last.
It may be the last.
It's not going to be the last.
You and I both hope this is the last.
No, I
If-
don't. No, I don't. But I do want to know because that's all fun.
Yeah.
But what was going on when these songs? Because you didn't have to make an album, which meant you had to make an album.
Exactly.
So
That's a
wh-
great point.
So what was going on that made you need to write these really sad songs?
I think to be a human is to suffer.
Mm.
It's like this never-ending cycle of suffering.
Okay, so what were you suffering from? What was making you sad at the time?
Heartbreak, that's
Mhm.
for certain.
Yeah.
Just the realization that I'm a failure.
At what?
Everything.
I mean, that's
For me to decide.
it is absolutely. I'm not going to try and dissuade you from that, but in order to get past that feeling, right? Making art helps, but there's also you have to work. You have to work on yourself, right?
Yeah, that was the big thing. And I think we touched upon that before, but I had so much growth making this album. It was beyond, oh yeah, I evolved as an artist. The two are in tandem, and if you don't evolve as a human, it's very hard to evolve as an artist.
Correct.
So what I found was working on myself, working on my soul, healing myself. I got sober during the course of making this
Was
album. So-
drinking a problem?
not drinking. I've been a drug addict since I was 15,
Yeah.
basically. Something I've struggled with for most of my adult life. I mean, if all of it, I don't know when you become an adult, but
Yeah.
I was basically an adult when I was a kid, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, this album covers a wide range of topics. Everything from addiction to heartbreak to finance. You know, for me, money is not a big thing. I talk about it, but really, as long as I can afford to make art, and that's why I partnered with Atlantic, was so that I could make great art.
Because you pour it all into it. That's the thing. That's the thing.
I think I've mentioned this in the past, but I took way less on my advances so I could have bigger video budgets. I said, I'll take half as much, but I want to put that money into my marketing budgets, which is just your music video budgets, because that's pretty much the only way you market music nowadays. So it ended up being the kind of thing where my friends, they made triple as much money as me, but they couldn't even get a $20,000 music video.
How did you need help getting off drugs?
I mean, I only just got fully sober. Basically, I got off weed a year ago. I got off alcohol, I would say 8 months ago or something. And then I quit vaping like a month ago by doing mushrooms. Microdosing. And for those who don't know, this is like a very powerful tool for addiction. You know, when you have those urges, you just take a little bit more, but just kind of having microdosing throughout the day for about a week. And it's so powerful. And I'm around everyone who's constantly smoking and all these things. And to get off of that was a big deal. And it's very hard to do, but through just using proper dosing on microdosing mushrooms is very powerful.
Why did you start in the first place? Boredom? Like, what would you...
Drugs?
Any closer understanding?
It was from my cousin dying. When I was in middle school, he got spiral meningitis and he went brain dead in like 2 days. And that was like, and I had to say goodbye to him at the hospital. Like he was like a vegetable.
Trauma.
And that was like, before that, I like wouldn't do drugs. My friends were like, oh, we're going to go smoke. And this is like when I was in 6th grade or whatever. So it's like, my friends are like, we're going to go smoke. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to smoke. Like, I don't do that, you know? And I was like totally against the idea of using drugs. My parents had done everything they could to like raise the right values for me. But as soon as I like experienced that and he passed away, that went out the window. And it was like the kind of thing where I basically would tell myself like, oh yeah, I could die at any moment. Because he was only a year older than me. He was like one of my best friends. We had just taken him to Mexico that summer. And me and my brother, he was in between our age. But since he was older than me, like we didn't have the competition. Him and my brother were like more competing for the alpha male, whereas me and him didn't. So I was way closer with him. He was like really close to me, my favorite cousin, one of my best friends. And so like when he died, I was like, whoa, I could die at any second. I want to see what else this world has to offer, which I think in some ways was an excuse for me to just escape through drugs.
I think trauma plays it. Trauma is such a crazy thing. Like a lot of times you don't even really acknowledge that you've gone through it until much later, and it really needs a home and it needs to attach itself to something, and it's powerful. I mean, it requires a lot of work.
And it was crazy because it started out with just, oh yeah, a little smoking of weed, and then it turns into ecstasy on a school night, and then it turns into eating like every type of drug, and then it moves up to, you know, numbing yourself with ketamine, and then it moves up to experimenting with meth and heroin.
That's
you know
called
what I mean?
destruction by distraction.
Yeah, and it just is this thing, and it's like it becomes the thing where you're starting with one thing, and then you're doing 7 drugs at once. You know what I mean? And taking as much, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and it becomes like spiraling. To the point where my parents kicked me out in high school. They're like, you're no longer welcome to live here. I was selling drugs to survive and living at my friend's house, sleeping on their couches. I could have gone down that path. Yeah. And I did go down it to a certain extent, but I hit rock bottom. I did this family trip to Burning Man, and I ate way too much LSD. And I ended up, long story short, having my own rebirth and going to my funeral, seeing my whole death play out. And that was my rock bottom as a drug addict. And after that, I stopped all hard drugs, and I had this opportunity to perform and do DJ sets. I used to be a dubstep DJ in high school, which plays into the whole thing of drugs. You know, that scene is so rooted around drug use. And I had an opportunity to play a big show, my first real big show. And so that gave me an outlet. Instead of needing to do drugs, I could pour my time and energy into preparing for the show. So it basically saved my life. That's where music became my religion. Yeah. And that was a big part of my really being able to sacrifice my life for music and bow down to the music gods.
Yeah, worship at the different altar.
That was a religious kind of moment for me that was like, whoa, the music gods are going to watch over me. And if I bow down to them, they will take care of me.
Why did you decide to mix a Morocco?
Because, bro, I'm traveling the world right now, trying to hit all 7 continents in 1 year.
Before you turn?
29. The goal was to hit all 7 continents before I turn 30, which is still the goal. But then I was like, why not do it before I'm 29? Why stop there?
Get out into it.
And yeah, I'm always just touring, and I don't get to really see that much. So after COVID and after I left my grandparents' ranch, I made an effort to say, hey, I'm going to start just only going to places that I've never been. So I lived in Russia for 4 months.
How was that?
Incredible.
Just give us some top line reflections on Russia.
Well, Russia, I'm not going to get into the political side of things because that's completely out of my wheelhouse.
Smart.
But the art, the music videos, and the music, top notch. I mean, their film schools, it's a different school of thought. They're making some of the most incredible, most, I don't know how I would say this, sophisticated music videos. Like even their artists, like the smallest artists, their music videos are better than the biggest artists in America.
When you land in Russia and your desires to try and go and be a part of the community and to actually, you know, assimilate in a meaningful way rather than just play a show and get out, where do you begin? Like, how do you begin to see the real Russia through the artist lens and not through you as an artist and your lens?
Well, I think the best way to see any culture is to go through the locals and to be introduced to it by the people who really live there. That's the only way to really get the insider view.
So you had an on-the-ground connection who then started that process?
Yeah, so I worked with this band, Little Big, who's like Russian royalty. They make like some of the craziest music videos, and their music is just wild. But basically, I worked on music with them for a year. They came to LA. I was living at a house at the time, and they recorded with me there. And we would send tracks back and forth for a year. We had built, you know, a real connection. And by the time I finally could get into Russia, because it's extremely hard, we had to get our visas approved by the office of the president. It took us like 6 months just to get into the country. And once I got there, I'm like, I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
I stayed as long as I could with my visa. And I actually tried to extend my visa by joining the military, which that's another story. I'm not going to get too far into that. But I made a documentary of the process. I was in boot camp for literally weeks and weeks. And then
you actually began the process.
Yeah. I was trying to get my full citizenship, and I ended up getting kicked out because I didn't pass the drug test. And this is when I wasn't fully sober, but it wasn't hard drugs. I was using what I thought was just a supplement, and it ended up being a steroid. And so I got kicked out for steroids.
You got kicked out of Russia whilst you were in the process of trying to join the Russian military.
It sounds crazy.
For having steroids in your blood.
Yeah. But I will say, there's a documentary I filmed of this process and working with the locals. And I will say, it may never come out. I filmed 20 documentaries over the last 5 years. And we're trying to get enough editors to edit them because I'm filming more than I can actually edit.
Edit it down, yeah.
But Russia was crazy. I got to see it from the artist's perspective. I got to be introduced by the locals. And I did that with the French. I worked with some French rappers, Lorenzo.
Yeah.
Made a bilingual documentary with him in France. And that was like 4 years ago. Still hasn't come out yet. Basically, they spoke in French the whole time. We spoke in English. And we didn't even understand what each other was saying. And when we ended up editing it, we didn't even know what they were saying. So we just wrote whatever we thought sounded best as the subtitles. But I'm always just trying to work with different cultures, being just introduced to seeing something new. That's how I get inspired. That's how I maintain not burning out. So this year, 4 months in Russia, I went to Costa Rica to just do a little bit of soul searching. And I'm riding motor scooters around the world. I'm making a documentary about motor scootering around the globe. I went to Morocco and Egypt for a month. I was in the Middle East and in Africa, Northern Africa. And then I just got back from India and Thailand for a month.
How was India?
India is probably one of my favorite places I've ever been.
Why?
Nothing like it. That country should be its own continent. The amount of people, how dense it is. Have you been?
No, never.
You got to go.
Yeah.
It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Just culture shock beyond belief.
Overwhelming.
Overwhelming, but the most sweet, loving people. I hung out with the kids. I hung out with people, fishermen. I helped push their boats out into the water. It was crazy, like the different experiences I've had. That's why I like making documentaries, because it pushes me outside of my comfort zone. Not to say I need a camera to be there to do some of this stuff, but for me, it pushes me to be like, well, let's go do something crazy. He just did one of his fake laughs, too. There it is. There it is.
That's not fake.
That's fake.
No way. Don't tell me what's fake about me
He
when you're
just
the one
switched
who's
up.
literally just done the documentary behind the documentary behind the documentary behind the documentary. Told me you just taken 100 people, their life's work, you're going to throw it away. It's funny to you.
It's funny.
And then you're like, this guy's fake laughing.
You do. You love to fake laugh. I saw you
This
do it
is-
in the Ed Sheeran episode.
I figured, what's your problem with Ed Sheeran?
I want to work. Ed, if you're watching this.
Our time is up. Thanks for coming on my
Is
show.
that it?
Thanks for coming on my show.
Man, I got some other things I needed to tell you.
Go ahead.
The album, Cowboy Tears.